Look at this forest. From a distance, it's just trees, a massive green. But if you come closer, if you really look, you see the ecosystem, the mycelial networks connecting root systems, the symbiotic relationships, the constant quiet exchange of information and energy that keeps the entire system alive. This is complexity. It's the difference between seeing a painting and feeling the artist's intent in every brushstroke. Most of us are taught to navigate the world by recognizing the trees. We learn the names, the clear paths, the obvious boundaries. But what if your mind doesn't work that way? What if, from your earliest memories, you didn't just see the forest, you felt its nervous system? You perceived the tension in the wind, the story in the decaying log, the hidden connections that make it all one living thing? For decades, you've likely been told this way of being is a problem. You think too much. You feel too deeply. Why can't you just be normal? That last one. That's the real question, isn't it? What is normal but the average setting for a human psyche? And what if you weren't built for the average setting? The pioneering psychologist Carl Jung spent his life mapping the hidden continents of the human mind. And in his work, he identified a specific, rare pattern of consciousness. Not a mental illness, not a disorder, but a fundamentally different operating system. He saw individuals who didn't just have more thoughts or bigger feelings, but whose entire psychological architecture was wired for depth perception in a world that prefers to focus on the surface. Today, we're going to explore that architecture. We're going to descend into what Jung really meant and uncover the definitive signs of what I've come to call the complex consciousness. If you spent a lifetime feeling like a submarine built for the Mariana Trench, forced to sail in a paddling pool, this is for you. By the end, you won't just understand why you're different. You'll understand the profound responsibility and the breathtaking privilege that comes with it. But first, we need to shatter a myth. This isn't about being better. This is about being different in a very specific, neurologically and psychologically measurable way. It's not a hierarchy, it's a taxonomy. A lion isn't better than a wolf. They're built for different terrains, with different senses, different strategies for survival. Jung's work suggests that within humanity, there are different psychological species, and one of them is exceptionally rare. He estimated perhaps 1 to 2% of the population consistently operates from this place, not 20%, a tiny fraction. These individuals aren't just highly sensitive or introverted. Those can be components, but this is the whole engine. It's a comprehensive rewiring of perception, processing, and purpose. Your pain, your isolation, that chronic sense of being out of phase with reality, it's not a sign you're broken. It's the strain of a high-torque engine being forced to idle. It's the pressure a deep-sea vessel feels in shallow water. Let's begin the descent. Let's identify the blueprints of the complex consciousness. Chapter 1, the depth perception. Emotional and perceptive wiring. The first and most fundamental sign is what Jung calls psychological permeability. For most people, an emotion is a discrete event. Anger, joy, sadness. It has a boundary. It's like a stone dropped into their mental water. It makes ripples, but the stone and the water remain separate. For the complex consciousness, there is no stone. There is only water. You are the medium. An emotion isn't something you have, it's an environment you enter. It comes with a full sensory landscape, a texture, a temperature, a history, a future of possibilities. When you feel grief, it's not just sadness for a loss. It's the taste of autumn, the weight of history, the phantom ache of every goodbye you've ever witnessed. Your joy isn't just happiness. It's a crystalline, expansive clarity that seems to connect you to the pulse of things. This isn't being emotional. This is having an emotional palette with millions of colors when the world primarily deals in 10. Jung understood this as the activity of what he termed complexes. Not in the negative way we use it now, but as living, semi-autonomous clusters of thoughts, memories, and feelings in the unconscious. In most people, these complexes are quiet, dormant. In the complex consciousness, they are active, resonant. They are the sub-processors of your psyche, each one capable of running deep background operations. This leads directly to the second sign, hyper-inclusive awareness. You don't just listen to what people say, you hear the symphony beneath the solo, the slight tremor in the voice 3 octaves below the words, the micro-gesture that contradicts the confident statement, the energetic void where enthusiasm should be. You're not reading into things. You're reading the things that are actually there, but are culturally filtered out as noise. It's like having a radio that picks up every frequency at once, while everyone else has theirs tuned to one clear pop station. The pop station is easier to enjoy, but you're hearing the static, the distant Morse code, the hidden transmissions. This is exhausting, profoundly so, because you're not just processing the event, you're processing the metadata of the event, the context, the subtext, the potential, the history, the echo. It's no wonder you need so much time alone. You're not antisocial, you're in data decompression. Chapter 2, The Architect of Reality. Cognitive and existential wiring. If your perception is wired for depth, then your cognition is wired for architecture. This brings us to the third sign, the compulsion to deconstruct and rebuild. Most people accept the puppet show. They follow the narratives they're given, career paths, relationship models, definitions of success. The complex consciousness looks at the puppet and immediately asks, who is pulling the strings? What is the string made of? Could we build a different stage? Do we even need strings? You don't accept systems, be they social, professional, or philosophical, at face value. You instinctively reverse engineer them to find their core assumptions. And often you find those assumptions flimsy. Why do we work 40 hours a week? Isn't a logistical question for you. It's a philosophical excavation. You trace it back through the Industrial Revolution to notions of productivity, worth, and the human relationship with time itself. This isn't pedantry, it's a different mode of existence. For you to live an unexamined life isn't just not worth living, it's psychologically impossible. Your mind's primary function is examination. This compulsive questioning is often pathologized as anxiety, indecisiveness, or rebellion. But in the Jungian framework, it's evidence of a highly active rational function struggling to find solid ground in a world built on sandcastles. Which builds into the fourth sign, perhaps the heaviest to carry, the authenticity imperative. For most, authenticity is a value, a nice to have. For you, it's a biological and psychological necessity. Like oxygen, you've tried to wear the personality that gets the job, to laugh at the joke that doesn't land right, to pretend the shallow connection is enough. And what happened? It wasn't just discomfort, it was a systemic failure, a deep soul-level nausea. Jung called the consequences of this psychic retribution. When you violate your own inherent structure, your psyche rebels. It manifests as depression that looks like emptiness, anxiety that feels like freefall, a fatigue no sleep can cure. This isn't you being difficult. This is you being coherent, a square peg experiencing violent internal feedback when slammed into a round hole. The imperative isn't to be unique, it's to be integral, to have your outer life match your inner architecture. Anything less is a form of psychological suicide. Chapter 3, The Solitary Furnace. The Alchemy of Isolation. This relentless drive for internal coherence leads to the fifth sign, one that defines the life experience of the complex consciousness: forced individuation. Jung's great work was the map of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming the complete, unique individual you are meant to be. For most, this is a gentle current they can choose to swim with in midlife. For you, it is not a choice. It is a riptide that pulled you out to sea in childhood. Your journey wasn't about adding pieces to build a self. It was about stripping away everything that wasn't yours. The expectations, the conditioning, the borrowed identities. This often happened through intense suffering, feeling alienated from family, outgrowing friends, being misunderstood repeatedly. This wasn't random misfortune. This was the process, the forge. You were forced to become your own parent, your own mentor, your own source of validation. You built a personal philosophy from the ground up because the prefabricated ones collapsed under the weight of your questions. This is why you're fiercely independent. Not because you're cold, but because you had to learn to source your own gravity. You are a psychological pioneer who colonized your own inner wilderness because there was no other map. And from this furnace comes the sixth sign, the burden of synthesis. You don't just see contradictions, you feel a compulsive need to resolve them. Good and evil, spirit and matter, chaos and order, the personal and the universal. Your mind is a crucible where opposites are thrown in, not to see which one wins, but to see what third new thing they can create together. Jung called this the transcendent function, the psyche's ability to generate a new attitude from the tension of opposites. While others take sides in an argument, you're mentally constructing the higher principle that makes sense of both positions. This is incredibly valuable. It's also incredibly isolating. In a world of debates, you're speaking the language of synthesis, and it can sound like nonsense to those still fighting on the battlefield. You hold complexity so others can cling to simplicity. And you often do it silently because explaining the journey is more exhausting than just making the arrival. Chapter 4, The Echo in the Space, Relational Dynamics. This internal complexity creates a very specific and often painful relational dynamic. The seventh sign of the complex consciousness is the mirror effect. You don't just have relationships, you act as a living mirror. Your presence, your depth, your refusal to play superficial games naturally reflects back to people their own depths, or their avoidance of it. This creates three archetypal responses, which we'll explore in detail. Part A, the seekers and the repellers. The seekers are drawn to you. They sense the depth and project onto you the answers they lack. They want you to be their healer, their guru, their source of meaning. They love the reflection they see in you, but often cannot see you behind the glass. These relationships are draining because they are parasitic. They want to consume your light without doing their own inner work. The repellers are threatened. Your authenticity highlights their inauthenticity. Your comfort with depth highlights their fear of it. They will call you too intense, too complicated, too much. Their strategy is to diminish you, to try and scuff the mirror so it stops reflecting what they don't want to see. These relationships are corrosive. Both of these dynamics leave you lonely. One, because you're being used as a tool. The other, because you're being treated as a threat. Part B, the rare resonance. And then there is the third response, the resonant other. This is the rare individual who has also done the work. They have their own gravity, their own light source. They don't need you to complete them. They appreciate you to complement them. With them, there is no mirror. There is a conversation between two complete, complex systems. It's a dialogue, not a monologue or a download. Finding this is the relational holy grail for the complex consciousness. It's so rare because it requires two people who have endured the solitary furnace and emerged not just whole, but capable of connecting without consuming. This mirror effect explains so much of your social history. The instant, deep connections that then fizzle when the seeker realizes you won't save them. The baffling hostilities from people you barely know. The profound, quiet understanding with the stranger who says nothing, but sees everything. You are a walking catalyst. You accelerate processes in others for better or worse. And you've had to learn, often painfully, that not every chemical reaction is safe to be the part of. But this relational dynamic is just the external symptom of an even deeper internal function, one that is the very core of the complex consciousness's purpose. And it's here that we encounter the most mysterious, the most demanding, and the most misunderstood sign of them all. The eighth sign isn't about how you perceive or think or relate. It's about why you are this way at all. It's about the engine in the dark. It's what Jung pointed to when he spoke of the archetypal vocation. And understanding this is the key to moving from a life of suffering your complexity to a life of deploying it. But that is a transformation. And all transformation requires crossing a threshold. We have to talk about the shadow, not as a metaphor, but as a living psychological entity that every complex consciousness must eventually face. Because your greatest strength is hidden in what you've been taught to reject about yourself. Your depth is also your wound. Your perception is also your burden. And the bridge between the two is guarded by what Jung called the guardian at the threshold, the eighth sign, the core, the archetypal vocation. This is not a job. It's not a calling to a specific profession like artist or therapist, though it may express itself there. This is deeper. Jung suggested that the psyche isn't just personal, it's connected to a collective layer, a sea of ancient patterns and potentials, the archetypes. And for the complex consciousness, one or several of these archetypes aren't just influences, they are activators. You feel a persistent magnetic pull toward a specific quality of experience or being. The healer, the sage, the creator, the revolutionary, the mystic. It's a template in your soul. You sense a form you are meant to grow into, a role in the human drama that is uniquely yours to fulfill. This creates that restless, undefined sense of purpose, a homesickness for a place you've never been, a duty to a cause you can't yet name. This is why ordinary life feels like a costume that doesn't fit. You're not built for a generic life path. You're built to embody a specific fragment of the collective human spirit. Your sensitivity is your antenna, picking up the signal of that archetype. Your questioning is your navigation system. Your suffering has been the friction necessary to sculpt you into a vessel that can hold it. But here is the critical, non-negotiable law of this psychological territory. You cannot access the full power of the archetypal vocation without first facing its shadow. You cannot integrate the king without facing the tyrant. You cannot embody the healer without confronting the wounded. You cannot wield the power of the sage without wrestling with the detached, cold intellectual. This is the guardian at the threshold, your own unlived life, your repressed darkness. Jung called it simply the shadow. Chapter 5, The Guardian at the Threshold. Shadow integration. For the complex consciousness, the shadow is particularly potent and dangerous. Why? Because your gifts, when inverted, become your most severe pathologies. Your depth, when refused, becomes a pit of self-obsession. Your independence becomes cold, unfeeling isolation. Your ability to see systems becomes a corrosive cynicism that builds nothing. Your empathy becomes a loss of self, where you drown in the world's pain. The guardian takes many forms for people like us. Let's name the 3 most common shadow traps. Shadow trap 1, the secret kingdom of superiority. After a lifetime of feeling misunderstood, it's a seductive retreat to believe you're not just different, you're better. Your depth becomes proof of your elevation. You look down on the sleeping masses. This is the shadow of the sage archetype, wisdom curdling into arrogance. It isolates you utterly because genuine connection requires equality, not hierarchy. Shadow trap 2, the Messiah burnout. Your natural healing energy, your ability to hold space, twists into a conviction that you must save everyone. You become a psychological ambulance, rushing to every wound. You neglect your own needs, your own life, in service of a duty you were never assigned. This is the shadow of the healer, compassion devouring the self. It leads to resentment, exhaustion, and a hollow legacy, because you cannot give from an empty cup. Shadow trap 3, the exile's resentment. The pain of isolation hardens into a story. The world will never understand me, so I will reject it first. You build a fortress of your complexity, not to protect your gift, but to nurse your wounds. You use your sensitivity as evidence of the world's cruelty. This is the shadow of the revolutionary, the fight for authenticity becoming a permanent war against an imagined enemy. It stagnates your growth, trapping you in a victim identity. Integration doesn't mean becoming these shadow forms. It means acknowledging their potential within you. It means saying, yes, a part of me could become arrogant. A part of me is a wounded healer. A part of me wants to hide forever. When you bring this to consciousness, it loses its power to control you from the darkness. The superior streak becomes quiet confidence. The Messiah complex becomes discerned compassion. The exile's pain becomes the fuel for building bridges, not walls. The guardian is not there to stop you. It's there to ensure you are strong enough to carry what comes next. You must earn your vocation by facing what you fear most in yourself. Chapter 6, The Deployment. From burden to blueprint. Once you've made peace with the guardian, everything changes. You are no longer a patient in your own psyche. You become the architect. This is the shift from having a complex consciousness to using it. It's the difference between being a ship battered by waves and being the captain who uses the waves for navigation. Your traits cease to be symptoms and become skills. Let's translate them. Your psychological permeability becomes contextual intelligence. You don't just feel the room's emotion, you understand its origin, its trajectory, and the most elegant way to shift it. You become a master of emotional and social ecosystems. Your hyper-inclusive awareness becomes strategic foresight. You see the weak signals, the emerging patterns, the potential disasters and opportunities long before they are obvious. You are the canary in the coal mine, not as a victim, but as the early warning system that allows for course correction. Your compulsion to deconstruct becomes innovative reconstruction. You don't just tear down shaky structures. You are uniquely equipped to design better ones. You build philosophical frameworks, ethical systems, businesses, art, and relationships that have integrity because they account for the complexity you perceive. Your authenticity imperative becomes your magnetic core. The very thing that repelled the wrong people now irresistibly attracts the right ones, the resonant others, the collaborators, the true companions. Your unshakable center becomes a landmark for others who are lost. This is your deployment. You are not meant to simply cope with being complex. You are meant to apply that complexity as a problem-solving faculty for a world drowning in shallow, fragmented solutions. Your solitude has been your research and development phase. Your sensitivity is your primary data collection tool. Your existential pain has been the pressure required to form a diamond of clarity. You stop asking, how do I make myself fit in? And start asking, what unique fracture in the world is my specific shape designed to mend? Chapter 7. The Legacy. Your evolutionary role. This brings us to the final and perhaps most important understanding. Jung didn't just see this pattern as a personal quirk. He saw it as an evolutionary function. The complex consciousness is not an error in the human line. It is a feature. It is the evolutionary scout. Throughout history, the individuals who shifted paradigms, the philosophers, the social reformers, the groundbreaking artists, the mystics, they all displayed this complex architecture. They were the ones who felt the future's tug before it arrived, who suffered the present's contradictions most acutely, and who dared to imagine a synthesis. You are part of that lineage, not because you are famous, but because you share the same psychic structure. Your loneliness is the scout's loneliness, walking ahead of the tribe to find the new path. Your exhaustion is from translating insights from a language the tribe doesn't yet speak. Your sense of purpose is the scout's duty to report back, to build the bridge between what is and what could be. Your role is not to drag everyone into the depths with you. It is to go into the depths, retrieve the truth, and translate it into something that can nourish the world. Sometimes that's a work of art. Sometimes it's a compassionate act that changes one life. Sometimes it's simply holding a frequency of integrity that makes it easier for others to find their own. You are a node in the nervous system of humanity. Your heightened sensitivity means you feel the collective pain, joy, and confusion. That isn't your pathology to treat. It's your data to process. And your gift is to process it into meaning, into beauty, into a new, more conscious option. Conclusion, the invitation. So where do you go from here? The journey of the complex consciousness has 3 permanent phases, not sequential, but cyclical: descent, integration, and return. You will always descend into your own depths, into the heart of problems, into the shadows of yourself in the world. This is your nature. Don't fear it. You must always integrate, bring the jewels of the deep back to the surface. Face the guardian, translate the archetypal message, make the unconscious conscious. And you are meant to return, not to the shallow end, but to the world of action, bearing the synthesized gift, to put the blueprint on the table, to offer the compassionate word, to build the authentic thing. Stop apologizing for your submarine architecture. The shallow waters were never your destination. Your depth is not a wound to heal, it is a mission parameter. The world doesn't need you to be less. It needs you to be precisely what you are. It needs your perception to diagnose, your empathy to heal, your vision to build, and your authentic presence to remind others that such a way of being is possible. You spent a lifetime feeling like the puzzle piece that doesn't fit. What if you're not a piece of that puzzle at all? What if you are a piece from a future puzzle accidentally dropped into the present? Your job isn't to force yourself into the wrong picture. Your job is to stay true to your shape, so that when the rest of your puzzle arrives, you're ready, and you will help complete a picture far more magnificent than the one you were told to join. Carl Jung gave us a map for a rare territory. You are not lost, you are found. You were simply born on a different continent of the mind. Now, plant your flag, build your home, light your signal fire. The world is waiting for the report only you can bring back.